Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and make this gown with a stylish ruffle effect. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, I've gone ahead to mark my basic measurement, which is my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline. So this dress has a half length and we're going to stop at our waistline. So after this, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14, divided by 2, I have 7. At that point, I'll go down by 1 inch to mark my shoulder slope. I'll place my ruler and I'll go ahead to connect. Next, I'm going to mark my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and rule a line at that point. And the next step is to go ahead and I will mark what I have on the shoulder at the chest line point, which is my shoulder divided by 2. And I'll go ahead to draw a straight line and connect. Next, I'll place my tape at that point and I'm going to fold what I have there into 2 and I'll mark. From that point, I'll come in by ½ inch. Go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now, I'll connect from my bust circumference to the ½ inch at the midpoint and to the upper part of the shoulder. Next, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2 for my dart. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches and dividing it by 2, I have 3.5. So I'll go ahead and mark this and draw a straight line at that point. After that, I'll be coming up by 1.5 inches, which is not a standard. You can use any desired measurement of your choice. And after that, I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple on that line again. Now, I'll be marking my dart intake of 1 inch at both sides. And I'll also go ahead to mark that at my waist. After I'm done marking, I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line, connecting those dots, and I will stop at my under bust. Now I'll place my curved rule, connect from my bust to my under bust, and also connect at the other side. Here I'll be marking 1 inch at both sides and I'll go ahead to connect this down and also connect this at the other side of my dress this way. So after I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So after I'm done connecting, the next step is to connect from there and I'll go up a little by ½ inch after my chest line. So I'll just go ahead and connect this. So for this dress, you can go ahead and make it as an off shoulder or a dress with a shoulder. So it totally depends on how you want to attach your ruffle to it. So I'll go ahead and mark about 2.5 inches here and I'll be connecting it to this point, because I want my sleeve to be a little bold so that when I attach my ruffle, I will have enough to attach the ruffle on it. But if I don't, I will go ahead to increase what I have here when I'm actually attaching the ruffle to my dress. So I'll just go ahead and connect and also measure what I have here. So I'll also be readjusting what I have here when we are cutting this pattern out. So I will go ahead and I will insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake here, replace it, and I'll be adding my sewing allowance. At the under bust, I'm going to be marking my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'll be marking my waist circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart and add my sewing allowance to it. So after that, I'll just go ahead and place my ruler and I'm going to connect my pattern. So after I'm done marking this out, I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you have a question, please leave it also at the comment section. So after I was done cutting, I said I was going to readjust my sleeve, so I'll place this way and I'll cut out. So if you don't want to cut this out, you're going to add like extra 2 inches that we took out at the dart at that point. But I want to readjust the yoke or the sleeve, so this is what I have. So next we'll be moving over to the back pattern and you're going to measure the neckline of the front. you're going to use it for the back pattern. So I went ahead to mark out all my basic measurement just like we did for the front. The only difference is that I have a zipper at the back pattern. So I'll also go ahead and mark my underbust later. So I actually did this for those that don't mark underbusts at the back pattern. So now I'm going to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5, and I'll go ahead to mark this at the lower part also, and I'm going to be drawing a straight line to connect this. So after connecting this, I'll go ahead and draw a dart for this pattern. I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides. So before drawing that, I'll come down by 1 inch from my from my bust line, and I'll connect my darts at both sides. So after connecting this, the next step is to go ahead to insert my body measurement, and I'll just go ahead to mark my bust divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance there because there's no dart at that part. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace it, and add my sewing allowance. Now at the underbust, I'll be marking my underbust now. So if you're the type that doesn't mark underbust at the back, you can just go ahead to connect, and you can also blend in your darts or sew it. So I'll place my tape and mark my shoulder to underbust, and I'll draw a line there. Go ahead to mark the underbust measurement for the front, replace this dart intake here, and add your sewing allowance. Now I'll place my curve through, and I'm going to go ahead to connect this. So after I'm done connecting, I'll also go ahead to mark ½ inch here to get rid of the bulginess at the back of the dress, and I'll come down by ½ inch here. Now I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline this pattern, and after I'm done, I'm just going to connect from the upper part down to that ½ inch I marked. After I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead also to outline the other side of my dress, and I will be cutting it out. But before cutting out, you're going to work on the upper part of this sleeve. So I'll be marking that same 2.5 inches here, and I'll mark here. So after much consideration, I went ahead to readjust this because the back part of this dress needs the ruffle to come down at the sleeve part, at the zipper part of the dress. So I went ahead to increase this part to enable me place my ruffle all the way. So I marked 6 inches, and I will just go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting, while connecting, I went out a little by ½ inch so that just like the back, the ruffle will be able to flow from the shoulder down to the zipper part of this dress. So after this, I'll just go ahead and mark this out, and I will be cutting this out also. So after that, I'll just notch where my sleeve will start and cut out the side. So then we'll go ahead to cut out the back pattern. So you can go ahead and blend in your dart. So next, we'll go ahead and cut out the skirt pattern. So my upper body stopped at 17 inches, which is my waistline. So for the full length of this dress plus my sewing allowance, I'll be using 35 inches. So the dress is on the short size, so you don't want it to be too long. So I'll just mark where my 35 inches stopped, and I'll place my tape and mark 7 inches for my hip point and draw a line. So if you're on the much taller side, you'll be using 8 inches for this. So for this dress, you can actually use a dart just like we have on the thumbnail. But for me, I don't want to use a dart because I'm not really a fan of that on skirts or on the lower bodies. So I'll just go ahead and mark my waist circumference divided by 4. So if you're adding that, you're going to go ahead to add that. So I marked my sewing allowance of 1.5 inches. Going to the hip point, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. So what I have on my hip is 40 divided by 4. I have 10 plus 1.5 will give me 11.5. So at the lower part of my skirt, I'll take out 2 inches from that point. So 2 inches taken out from 11.5 is 9.5. So I'll just go ahead and connect from my hip point to the upper part of my pattern this way, and I'll go ahead to connect to my hip and then connect it to the lower part of my pattern. So this is what I have for my skirt, and I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. So before cutting it out, I'll also go ahead to label it just in case you don't understand the points and the mark that I made. So here's my hip, the other one is my skirt length, and at the upper part I have my waist measurement. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. So for the sleeve part of this dress, we are actually going to be doing that in the sewing tutorial of the dress. So after cutting this out, the next part is the back pattern. So to cut your back pattern, you're going to be adding your zipper allowance of 1.5 inches or 2 inches to this. So while cutting out my pattern, I always add my zipper allowance in front. So this is if you're using a pattern to cut out your skirt. But if you're not using a pattern, go ahead to cut your front part, place it on your fabric and add your zipper allowance and cut out. So with this, we are done drafting out this pattern, and also join us in our next tutorial where we'll be making this. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.